They tried to destroy her. Her own sister pushed her into a well and left her to die. But what they didn't know was she would survive and come back stronger than ever. Somehow, she made it out alive, broken, weak, but breathing. And just when it seemed like she had nowhere else to go, someone unexpected stepped in. Emeka drove Adanna to his home on the outskirts of town. It was not a mansion, but it was clean, warm, and safe. He showed her to a modest room at the back of the house, with a small window that let in the morning sun. "You can stay as long as you want," he said, his voice gentle. "Feel at home. Take your time to heal and think about what comes next. There's no reason to rush." Adanna looked around the room. It had a simple bed, a wooden chair, and small table. It was not much, but it was more than enough, especially for someone like her who doesn't have a better alternative. "Thank you," she whispered. "Honestly, I don't know how to repay what you've done for me for the past few days." Emeka shook his head. "You don't owe me anything. Just rest. Heal. That's all I ask." But Adanna could not accept charity. She had spent her whole life depending on people who let her down. She had learned that the only person she could truly rely on was herself. The first morning, she woke before dawn. She made breakfast for Emeka, eggs, bread, tea, and had it waiting on the table when he came out of his room. He blinked in surprise. "You didn't have to do this." "I want to," she said. "I'm staying in your house for free. The least I can do is cook and clean." And so it began. Every morning she made breakfast. Every evening she made dinner. She swept the floors, washed the clothes, scrubbed the pots. She kept the house spotless. Emeka tried to stop her at first. "Adanna, you're still healing. Your leg—" "My leg is healing," she said firmly. "But I need to work. I need to feel useful. Please, let me do this." He stopped arguing, but he watched her differently after that, with admiration, with respect, and with something deeper that he was afraid to name. One evening after dinner, Adanna sat with Emeka on the small porch, talking about random things. It has become an unspoken ritual for them to have a light conversation every night before bed. "I've decided," she said quietly. "I want to go to Lagos." Emeka turned to look at her. "Lagos?" "I've heard that as long as you work hard in Lagos, you'll succeed. I want to give it a try." He was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "I know that I can't change your mind whenever you make a big decision, but I will assist you in the best way I can. I know I don't have too much, but I'll try my best to support you. I have a friend who owes me a favor. I can meet him if you need more. I'll make sure you get there." Adanna shook her head firmly. "No." "Why not?" "Because I don't want to be spoon-fed." Her voice was steady, resolute. "I know I have the ability to make that money myself. I've done it before. I can do it again." Emeka leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "Adanna, you have nothing. Your family took everything from you. Let me help you." "And what if it doesn't work out in Lagos?" she asked. "What if I fail? If I take your money and fail, I'll have nothing left. Not even you to fall back on, because you'll be broke too." He opened his mouth to argue, but she continued. "I won't let you risk your savings for me. You've already done too much. You saved my life. You gave me a roof over my head. That's enough. The rest I will do myself." Emeka looked at her, really looked at her. He saw the fire in her eyes, the same fire that had kept her alive at the bottom of a well. He saw a woman who had been broken and was rebuilding herself, piece by piece. He wanted to hold her. He wanted to tell her that she didn't have to carry the world alone. But he said nothing. He simply nodded. "Okay," he said quietly. "I trust you." The next day, Adanna went back to what she knew best. She started braiding hair again. She walked from house to house, just like she had done before. But this time, she was not saving for a treatment. She was saving for her freedom. Adanna's fingers ached. At first, it was a dull pain, the kind she could ignore. But as the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, the pain deepened. Her fingertips became rough, hardened from constant pulling, twisting, braiding. Still, she did not stop. Every morning, before the sun rose, she was already awake, sweeping compounds, knocking on doors. "Good morning, Ma. Do you want to make your hair?" Some said yes. Many said no. Some slammed doors in her face. Some looked at her, at the faint scar where her birthmark once was, and turned away without a word. But every no only pushed her forward. By afternoon, she would be seated behind a customer, her hands moving fast, weaving strands into neat patterns. Sweat would drip down her neck, her back stiff from hours of sitting. By night, her eyes burned with exhaustion. Yet when she counted her money under the dim light, she smiled. Because it was growing. Slowly, painfully, but surely. By the time she was ready to leave for Lagos, she had saved 3 times the amount she needed for transport, just in case of emergency. The night before her departure, Emeka sat with her on the porch one last time. "You don't have to go," he said quietly. "You can stay here. We can build a life here." Adanna looked at him, and in his eyes, she saw something that made her heart ache. "I know," she said, "but I need to do this. I need to prove to myself that I can make it on my own." He nodded slowly. "I understand." "I'll come back," she promised. "Will you?" She reached out and touched his hand. "I will." He turned his palm up and clasped her fingers. They sat like that, hand in hand, watching the stars until the sun began to rise. Lagos was nothing like she expected. The city was loud, chaotic, overwhelming. Cars honked from every direction. People moved fast, talked faster, and had no time for hesitation. Adanna had done her research. She knew the main market where women and girls in Lagos went to make their hair. She had heard stories of women who came with nothing and left with fortunes. But when she arrived, she realized that the competition was fiercer than she had imagined. The hairstyles were complex, intricate braids, weaving, designs she had never seen before. She watched in awe as women transformed ordinary hair into works of art. She stood outside one of the busiest salons, watching through the window. The braiders moved with lightning speed, their hands a blur. The customers laughed and chatted, completely at ease. Adanna felt her confidence waver. With her current skill level, she would not survive here. She would be eaten alive. Adanna swallowed hard. After observing for some hours, she felt she had watched enough and stepped forward. "Excuse me, Ma. I can braid." The woman barely glanced at her. "Join the queue outside." "There is no queue," Adanna said quietly. The woman finally looked at her properly. "Who is this one?" she asked no one in particular. "She looks like one of those new girls that just entered Lagos and want to hustle," one of the women there said with a chuckle. "You want to plait hair?" the first woman said. Then she laughed. "You that looks like someone that hasn't even held a comb before. You better go look for oranges or pure water to sell. If not, you'll not survive here." The other braiders laughed hard. Adanna stepped back. Her chest tightened. Today is just the first day she arrived, but she already felt small. But she did not give up. She had not come all this way to turn back. After staying in Lagos for 1 week, there was a problem. The money was disappearing faster than she expected. Every day, food, transport, small expenses. Each time she reached into her bag, the bundle grew thinner. One night, she spread the money on her bed and counted. Once, twice, 3 times. Her hands trembled. This can't continue. Not for long. Her chest tightened. "What if this doesn't work?" she whispered. The thought terrified her. She had no home to return to, no family, no safety net. She couldn't afford to fail. Desperation pushed her into unfamiliar paths. The next day she tried selling sachet water. She stood under the scorching sun, calling out to passers-by. "Pure water! Cold water!" People walked past her. Some bought, most didn't. Her feet ached from standing all day. At the end of the day, her profit was barely enough to eat. Another week she tried selling snacks, then small accessories. Each time she hoped, maybe this will work. Each time it didn't. One evening she sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the remaining money. Her eyes burned, not from tears, from frustration. "I didn't come here to fail," she muttered, her fists clenched. "I didn't survive that well. To come and struggle like this and lose." Silence filled the room. She thought hard about her next move. 1 month was already wasted. She won't be able to last for too long. She has to do something now. After thinking for 2 days, she decided to find someone to learn from. Adanna spent 3 days scouting the market. She studied every salon, every braider, every apprentice. She watched how they worked, how they treated customers, how they handled pressure. She was looking for someone specific, a braider who was very good, had a large customer base, and did not have too many apprentices, so she would not have to compete with too many people for attention. That was when she found Mama Bola. Mama Bola was a stout woman in her 50s, with strong arms and a face that rarely smiled. She was famous in the market for her skills, and infamous for her temper.
Her shop was always full. Customers waited for hours just to sit in her chair, but she had only 1 apprentice and 2 workers. They were constantly exhausted, rushing from one head to the next, with barely a moment to rest. Adanna watched from across the street for an hour before she gathered the courage to approach. Mama Bola looked her up and down. Her eyes lingered on the faded scar where Adanna's birthmark used to be. "You want to learn?" Mama Bola asked, her voice sharp. "Yes, ma'am," Adanna said. "I don't take nonsense. I don't tolerate laziness. I don't suffer fools. If you waste my time, you will leave in tears. Do you understand?" Adanna did not flinch. "I understand." Mama Bola raised an eyebrow in surprise. "You're not scared of me?" Adanna smiled, a small, quiet smile. "With all due respect, ma'am, you cannot reach a quarter of even 1/8 of what my own mother or sister have done to me, even if you do your worst." Mama Bola stared at her for a long moment. Then she laughed, a deep, rumbling laugh. "You can start tomorrow." The first few months were hard. Mama Bola was strict, demanding, impossible to please. But Adanna was determined. She arrived early, left late, and never complained. She learned quickly. Her hands, already skilled from years of braiding, adapted to the complex styles faster than Mama Bola expected. The apprentice, Sarah, noticed. Sarah was lazy. She arrived late, forgot instructions, and bristled whenever Mama Bola corrected her. She had been with Mama Bola for 2 years, but had improved very little. She saw Adanna as a threat. "You think you're so special," Sarah sneered one day, while Mama Bola was out. "Just because Madam smiles at you, you think you're better than everyone." Adanna did not respond. She kept braiding. "I'm talking to you," Sarah hissed. Adanna looked up. "I'm not here to compete with you. I'm here to learn. Whatever problem you have with me is your problem, not mine." Sarah's face twisted with rage. "You'll regret this." But Adanna was not afraid. She had faced worse than Sarah, so she didn't even see her as a threat to her in any way. One of the workers, Helen, took a liking to Adanna. Helen was warm, patient, and ever ready to teach. She stayed after work to show Adanna complex styles, explaining each step with kindness. "How did you end up here?" Helen asked one evening as they sat outside the shop. Adanna hesitated. Then she told Helen everything: her mother's coldness, her sister's cruelty, the well, the rescue, the journey to Lagos. Helen listened without interrupting. When Adanna finished, her eyes were wet. "I'm sorry," Helen whispered. "No one should have to go through that." Adanna shrugged. "It made me who I am." Helen hugged her. It was the first time in years that someone had held Adanna with genuine affection. "You're not alone anymore," Helen said. The other worker was nice as well, but distant. She helped when Adanna asked, but kept to herself. Adanna did not mind. She had Helen. That was enough. 2 years passed. Not quietly, not easily, nor without challenges. Adanna's hands had changed. What once struggled to keep up with simple styles now moved with confidence, fast, precise, almost instinctive. Her fingers no longer hesitated. They danced through hair, weaving intricate patterns that made customers stare at their reflection in disbelief. "Is this really my hair?" one woman had asked, turning her head from side to side. Adanna had smiled. "Yes, Ma," word spread. Customers began to ask for her by name. "Mama Bola, I want that girl, the quiet one." Even Mama Bola had noticed. One afternoon, after watching Adanna finish a particularly complex style, she nodded once. "You're no longer a learner," she said. "You're a braider." It was the closest thing to praise Adanna had ever received from her, and she carried it like a badge of honour. Then, one morning, everything changed. The shop did not open on time. At first, Adanna thought nothing of it. Mama Bola was strict, but she was human. Maybe something had delayed her. But as the minutes stretched into an hour, something felt wrong. Customers began to gather outside. "Why is the shop still closed?" one woman muttered. "Is Mama Bola not around?" another asked. Adanna stood there, her stomach tightening. Then Helen came running down the street, her face pale, her breathing uneven. "Adanna," she gasped. Something in her voice made Adanna's heart drop. "What happened?" Adanna asked, already afraid of the answer. Helen swallowed hard. "It's Mama Bola." The world seemed to slow. She didn't make it. The words hung in the air, heavy, unreal. Adanna blinked, once, twice. "No," she whispered. Helen nodded, tears streaming down her face. "She died during childbirth. The baby survived, but..." Adanna didn't hear the rest. Her ears rang. Her chest felt hollow. Mama Bola, gone, just like that? Adanna stood frozen. The woman who had taken her in, taught her, pushed her to be better, gone. She didn't know how to cry. She didn't know how to feel. She only knew one thing: everything had just gotten harder. The shop will never feel the same again. By the next day, chaos had already begun. Without Mama Bola, there was no order, no authority, no structure. Customers came, stood outside, looked around, and left. "I can't sit here without knowing who is in charge," one said. "I'll come back when things are settled," another added, though she never did. Inside, tension filled the air. Sarah changed first. The fear in her eyes turned into something else, something sharp, restless, greedy. She moved quickly, quietly, watching everything. That night the shop was unusually quiet, too quiet. The street lights flickered outside. Inside, shadows stretched across the walls. Sarah moved carefully, slowly. She glanced toward the door, then toward Mama Bola's drawer. No one was watching. Her fingers trembled slightly as she reached for it. She pulled it open. Bundles of money, tools, extensions. Her breathing quickened. For a moment she hesitated. Then she started packing. Combs, clippers, money, everything she could carry. The next morning she was gone. Adanna arrived early. Something felt off immediately. The door was slightly open. She pushed it gently. The shop was silent. Too silent. She walked inside slowly. Her eyes scanned the room. Then she saw it. The drawer. Open. Empty. Adanna stepped closer. Her fingers brushed the edge. A chill ran down her spine. "She took everything," Helen said from behind her, her voice barely above a whisper. Adanna didn't respond. Her jaw tightened. Sarah hadn't just left. She had taken what little was left of the shop with her. The shop began to decay. Dust settled on the mirrors. The once busy chairs sat empty, pushed aside like forgotten objects. The sound of laughter, of chatter, of constant movement, gone. Silence replaced it, heavy, suffocating silence. "I can't do this," the other worker said one afternoon, tying her wrapper tightly around her waist. "There's nothing left here. No customers, no money, no future." She didn't wait for a response. She simply picked up her bag and walked out. Helen sat down slowly. Her shoulders slumped. "I don't know what to do," she said softly. "Everything is falling apart." Adanna said nothing. She stood in the middle of the shop, still, quiet. Her eyes moved slowly across the room, the scattered combs on the floor, the overturned chair in the corner. The mirror, now dull, reflecting a version of herself she barely recognized. This place had once been full of life, of noise, of purpose. Now it felt abandoned. She walked forward slowly. Her fingers brushed against one of the chairs. Dust clung to her skin. 2 years. 2 years of hard work, of pain, of growth, of becoming something more, and now everything was gone. But this time something was different. She did not feel fear. She did not feel helpless. She felt something else, a quiet, burning resolve. Adanna straightened. Her eyes hardened slightly. She had lost before. She had been broken before. She had been thrown away before. And she had survived. This would not be the end of her story. Everyone thought it was over. The shop had collapsed. The workers had left. Even the customers disappeared. But they forgot one thing. Adanna doesn't break that easily. What she does next will change everything. Be there for the next episode. You don't want to miss it.